prosecution is trying to keep Diddy in jail for 11 years or more, 11 and a half years they want him to spend in jail. That's more than over a year that he has been in Brooklyn in a terrible jail. And they want this man to continue to stay there. And I really had it up to here with the whole thing. I haven't spoken on this in a while. And as we approach the sentencing date for Diddy, which I believe will be this Friday, I believe, the 3rd or the 4th, whatever it is. As we approach this date, I have things to say, especially considering Cassie Ventura has re-entered the trending sphere as she has written a letter to the judge, letting her know how she feels about Diddy and whether he should be released or not released, and to what degree she feels that this man needs to be thrown under the jail. So let's get into that on Time to Talk. It is time to talk. We're going to talk Diddy stuff. I'm going to catch up with some of that stuff. There's been letters written in support of Diddy. We will get into that. But first, I want to get into the letter written by Cassie Ventura. I think this whole thing stinks. First of all, you know what? Before I even read how much did she get on the $30 million from this man after playing victim and whatever? Let's put it up front. Let's put it up front before we even start, because I'm going to say it a few times. The whole idea that this man put hands on this woman, and we all saw that video and how he treated her and all that stuff, we know is bad. I don't think it's a good idea for a man to be beating a woman the way he did, whether it's a drug-fueled, whatever, freak-off rage or whatever the hell it was, whatever excuse he had for beating her. This certainly is never going to be a thing about, oh, it's okay to beat Cassie. It was okay for her to catch beatings. You ain't never going to hear me say that. Now, you're never going to hear me say that this man's character is pristine, he's a good dude, and we should free him. You're not going to hear that from me. I'm talking on the legal grounds of shit, and I'm talking on the fact that there was clearly a conspiracy against this man, against this black man, this mogul. There's a conspiracy here at play, and I can see right through it. All right, and Cassie and some of the other alleged victims were not, in fact, victims to the degree that this case has tried to paint. So let's get into the letter that she wrote. I'm going to read it. I haven't even read it. I'm going to read it for the first time right here, but let's see what it says. Dear Judge Submarinian. Love that name. It sounds like he belongs in a Marvel movie. I have been in a cycle of thought and then overthought writing this letter to you. If there is one thing I've learned from this experience, it is that victims and survivors will never be safe. Although I can hope for justice and accountability, I have come to not trust anything. I hope that your decision considers the truths at hand and that the jury failed to see. For 4 days in May, while 9 months pregnant with my son, I testified in front of a packed courtroom about the most traumatic and horrifying chapters in my life. I testified that from age 19, Sean Combs used violence, threats, substances, and control over my career to trap me in over a decade of abuse. He groomed me into performing repeated sex acts with hired male sex workers during multi-day freak-offs, which occurred nearly weekly. I was forced into lingerie and heels, told exactly how to look, and plied with drugs and alcohol so he could control me like a puppet. These events were degrading and disgusting, leaving me with infections, illness, and days of physical and emotional exhaustion before he demanded it all again. Sex acts became my full-time job, used as the only way to stay in his good graces. I testified that I learned to read Sean Combs' signals, knowing that when he spoke of freak-offs, he was demanding them, and that refusing meant punishment, losing my car, my phone, or worse. He controlled every part of my livelihood and threatened to destroy my reputation by leaking sex tapes, a threat he repeated often. His power over me eroded my independence and sense of self until I felt I had no choice but to submit. When he believed I had wronged him or was not sufficiently responsive, he also threatened people around me and those close to me, including my family. I regularly worried that displeasing him meant putting my family and friends' safety at risk. I testified how beyond these threats, Sean Combs frequently used violence to get his way. Over the nearly 11 years we were together, Sean Combs hit me, punched me, stomped on my face, pulled my hair, and threw my body to the ground and against the wall. The jury saw pictures of bruises on my back from Combs kicking me and saw the deep gash over my eye he caused when he slammed me into a bed frame. The entire courtroom watched actual footage of Combs kicking me and beat me as I tried to run away from a freak-off in 2016. People watched this footage dozens of times, seeing my body thrown to the ground, my hands over my head, curled into a fetal position to shield me from the worst blows. This physical violence caused bruises that makeup artists, paid for by Sean Combs, would cover up. as well as permanent scars all over my body. During my time with Combs, I was in a constant state of hypervigilance, as I was always anticipating demands for sex acts or otherwise fearing retribution for any perceived slight. My descent into substance abuse was directly correlated with his increased control over my body, my money, my freedom, and my free will. I used those drugs to push through the horrifying sex acts he demanded and to numb myself to the physical pain and emotional turmoil I was constantly in. While the defense attorney at trial suggested that my time with Combs was akin to a great modern love story, nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing about this story is great, modern, or loving. This was a horrific decade of my life, stained by abuse, violence, forced sex, and degradation. I spent the last 7 years of my life slowly rebuilding myself, physically getting clean from the drug abuse Sean forced and encouraged, and mentally understanding how to live with a seemingly insurmountable level of trauma. The horrors I endured drove me to have thoughts of suicide, ones I almost followed through on, if not for my family's intervention and urging that I seek professional care and a lawyer. I have been to rehab and have taken part in dozens of types of therapy modalities to confront, compartmentalize, and cope with the horrific memories of sexual and emotional abuse I endured for nearly 10 years. While what he did to me is always present, I am slowly learning how to live my life free of the fear and horrors I endured. And in doing so, I'm fully devoted to my husband and my children. Also helps that I have $30 million. I still have nightmares and flashbacks on a regular, everyday basis and continue to require psychological care to cope with my past. My worries that Sean Combs or his associates will come after me and my family is my reality. I have, in fact, moved my family out of New York and I'm keeping as private and quiet as possible as can. I am scared that if he walks free, his actions will be swift retribution towards me and others who spoke up about his abuse at trial. As much progress as I have made in recovering from this abuse, I remain very much afraid of what he's capable of and the malice he undoubtedly harbors towards me for having the bravery to tell the truth. His defense attorneys claim he's a changed man. He wants to mentor abusers. I know firsthand what real mentorship means, and this disgusts me. He's not being truthful. I know that who he was to me, the manipulator, the aggressor, the abuser, the trafficker. Is who he is as human. He has no interest in changing or becoming better. He will always be the same cruel, power-hungry, manipulative man that he is. When I came out with my allegations in my civil case, he flatly denied them again and again. It was only after actual video footage corroborated the exact words of my civil complaint that he issued an insincere apology on the internet. Thanks to the footage and my testimony, this is also something he will forever be associated with. For over a decade, Sean Combs made me feel powerless and unimportant, but my experience was real, horrific, and deserves to be considered. While the jury did not seem to understand or believe that I engaged in freak-offs because of the force and coercion the defendant used against me, I know this is the truth, and his sentence should reflect the reality of the evidence and my lived experience as a victim. Reliving in detail the events and truths described throughout the trial, and this letter caused me tremendous emotional pain. I am trying with all that I am to move on. I hope that your sentencing decision reflects the strength it took for victims of Sean Combs to come forward. I hope that your decision considers the many lives that Sean Combs has upended with his abuse and control. I thank you for your time and attention. Cassandra Ventura Fine. Is that her real name? Cassie Ventura Fine? Okay. Look, people, let's just get right to it. You heard me read that letter. Some of you are obviously taken by her letter, her testimony, you've been taken by her from the moment, you saw that video, as we all were. Again, you probably go back on my channel to see when I first reported on that video, what I thought of Sean Combs and where I thought this was all going and how bad it was, how bad it looked for him. Yeah, we should feel that way. I think the abuse portion, any physical violence and all those things, I don't think these are things to be celebrated or to make light of, right? I got to keep repeating that because inevitably there's always someone in the comments or somebody, usually a woman, who doesn't get it. They don't get where I'm going to go when I discuss this from a legal perspective and I discuss this from the overall, what I think is a huge conspiracy against this man. All they see is that she had been beaten. That means that's it. That means she was beaten every day of her life and she had no responsibility here. And there's nothing. She's a victim. There's nothing we can do. It's always the man's fault. I think that's bullshit in this case. I think there was testimony and evidence that proves that it was bullshit. She was a willing participant. Let's just put it out there. I'm going to say it if I haven't said it before. I've said it on my channel, and I don't care if it's controversial. I don't care what everyone thinks at this point. I barely come on this channel. So when I do speak, I better make it worth it, make it count for you. Okay, if you're going to watch this, hopefully there's some value to the entertainment or something, the sensationalism or whatever, if I seem a little over the top. She's a freak. She was a freak, period. She's a freak. I've known women like her. Okay, so they don't need coercion. They don't need anything particular. They don't need drugs. They don't even, I've known plenty who don't need to be with a billionaire. They don't even need millions. They don't need anything. They just like getting down like that. They enjoy the lifestyle. They're into three-ways, menage, whatever you want to call it, orgies, swingers life. They like that stuff. That's their thing, whether they're experimenting at 20, 21 years old, 22 years old, 23 years old, right? Or they're just kind of finding out whatever. They tried it out and they loved it. They like it, whatever it is. She's a freak. She was a freak. Let's just put that out there. The girl's a freak. That is not a crime. So just, again, to be clear to people who don't pay attention, people in the back, this is not me saying that her being a freak is a bad thing and I'm judging her as a woman for being sexually, whatever, uninhibited and having her desires or her wants and her personal things that get her off. She's a freak. She was a freak. Diddy got with a freak. That's why they stayed together for that long, because he found somebody who was down ass with his lifestyle, right? Like that's what that was. That's what that was. They both did drugs together. They both did dumb shit together. She punched him in the face. He hit her. They had a bad relationship. This entire letter she wrote tried to paint the picture. And again, she did this at the beginning of the trial, tried to paint the picture that from the moment she met him, it was all him coercing her into a lifestyle and forcing her to do things. I'm sorry. You don't stay with somebody 11 years unless you're getting something out of it, you want something out of it, or in particular, you are enjoying most of what's happening. There's no way that she hated every minute of it. And there's testimony and evidence to prove that. So since we know that, we can't just discount that because she was beaten a couple times. We know she was beaten a couple times. We know he was a son of a bitch. But we also know she was a freak who was down ass with it and an opportunist. And she stood to benefit from the relationship as she did for 11 years. She hung in there probably longer than most. The only thing that she didn't do was get kids out of it. Right? She didn't get a regular child support payment out of this whole thing. But she did end up with what, $20-30 million. Now she's coming. She really should, if she's trying to stay quiet and trying to stay on the low, she shouldn't be penning letters to Judge Submarinian. Right? She should just shut her mouth. Take her $20-30 million and stay with him and raise your kids and shut the fuck up. Period. This whole thing, let's get into Sean now. Let's get into Diddy. This man should be sent home. Period. He's been in jail for over a year. He was convicted on the Mann Act on one thing, 2 counts of transportation for the means of prostitution, which is a nothing charge. You know how many people you'd have to lock up for years on end and ruin their entire careers if you went after every single celebrity who ever had a stripper or some sort of sex worker show up and meet them on a bus or a plane or come to their place or take a limo here and have them driven to their home or to their apartment, to their penthouse? Do you have any idea? This is unprecedented. We don't have a whole history of cases where it's like, oh yeah, this person, beat their wife, but also there was a prostitution. We have history of rock stars doing drugs, domestic abuse, being caught with transvestites, getting this, having sex in public, all sorts of stuff. This man was not running an empire, as clearly the case and the jury saw fit to judge on, right? To rule on. There was no RICO, there was no racketeering, there was no empire, a criminal empire designed to facilitate the profit there was no profit motive here for what he was doing. He's a freak, she's a freak, Daphne Joy, freak, and everyone else in between, freaks. The rest of the people around were just facilitating their boss's sort of wants and desires. Yeah, I like M&Ms with just make sure all the red ones are taken out and leave that bowl in the green room. This is like in your writer when you're the contracts that go to these different places, right? When a celebrity shows up somewhere, make sure there's enough baby oil. Think about this trial. Think about what we saw from day one. This whole trial, outside of the beating tape, the rest of the trial was nothing but salacious nonsense exposing a billionaire mogul's sex life. That's all it was. That's all it was. There was nothing else. And there was a bunch of evidence and stuff that supported the fact that these females that were involved with him were opportunists, were involved, and they had plenty of opportunity to get out. But they also had plenty of motive to stay in. My apartment's being paid for, my car's being paid for, my phone's being paid for. Well, I don't want to give that up now. So you know what? I might as well let a couple people piss all over me and go through 4 or 5 dudes in one night. Yeah, it's worth it because I got a nice car. Think about that for a second. That's a choice. That's a direct choice. That's not coercion. Oh my God, I might lose my life. This idea that if this man comes out of jail, that he's going to go on a rampage and he's going to go commit acts of violence is ludicrous, to say the least. There's no way he's going to do that. This man is not going to do that. He was a son of a bitch before he went into jail. He has a certain personality. I'm sure this has brought him down a little bit. And if he's actually staying in therapy and he's actually getting the help he needs, then from the Christian perspective, God bless him, and let's hope for forgiveness. And maybe he comes clean as a better man for his family, more important than us, the public. All right, forget about the public sphere. Let's just think about his family and his little girl, right? His little girls and his boys, right? I'm not saying Andy, this is not a pro Diddy, pro Combs thing. What a great, wonderful American family. That's not what it's about. But it is watching a billionaire mogul, a successful black man being taken out, and you have to ask, why are the crosshairs on him for something? When you think about the trial, you think about what he did or didn't do, you have to scratch your head and go, really? They're coming after him for this? They want to put this man in jail for 11 plus years or 20 years, whatever it is. For what? For getting his freak on? This is nonsense. It's nonsense. I've been saying it's nonsense for quite some time, ever since I saw through all the BS and the evidence that came out. And we really need to use this as an example, the same way they're using him as an example, right? Black man, don't get too excited because we will bitch slap you and put you back down. We'll take it all from you because that's what this whole thing's about. I don't know who we pissed off. There's all sorts of rumors and speculation about some brand deals and things regarding his vodka or tequila, whatever it was, and all sorts of people he might have pissed off, and the higher ups, the powers that be, that meet up in those little, private rooms. And somehow he pissed somebody off. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we got this tape and we got Cassie. We'll just bring her along and then we'll file a civil suit against you. And then we'll go from there. We're getting criminal with you and we'll just burn you down. That's what this whole thing was about. Because if this was any other person, if this was a normal case and this wasn't a big, a black media, a mogul who accomplished what he accomplished, right? That person would have been home, with an ankle bracelet on while the trial went on. It would not have been such a big deal. So that's what's got me fired up about the whole thing, is that when you look at the whole case, this is nonsense. And for anyone not to see through it, it's got to be just sick. Even if you side 100% with Cassie Ventura or the victims in this particular situation, you can't honestly not say, okay, but the whole case in general is kind of like, what are they doing here? They're going after this man for domestic abuse. Because again, to keep it real with you, people in the back who are not paying attention, this was not a domestic abuse case. This was not a case about how many people he beat down, how much evidence was there that he did all these heinous things and he injected needles into people, he was messing with minors, and there's all sorts of evidence. That would have been a whole different case. That's not what this case was about. This entire case, they tried to make a RICO charge on this man. They tried to have a sex trafficking charges on put against this man and made it seem like he was profiting and running some criminal enterprise in order to make money and moving all these people around doing all this heinous shit. And that's not what it was about. It was some toxic relationships, some freaky crap, a lifestyle that some females were involved with, some weren't. It was what it was. And you got to see that. Done. I've spoken. Time to talk. I'll be back when the actual sentencing comes up. We'll see what happens. If anything in the meantime comes up, another person writes a letter. There have been some letters of support from a couple people. I think Stevie J wrote a letter, Young Miami. Of course she's gonna hang in there, right? She's not trying to give up anything, right? So of course she's gonna write a letter. Please send him home, please, right? There's gonna be plenty of people sending letters of support. It's interesting because there's probably a lot of people who should be sending letters of support and who should be supporting it. There's plenty of other moguls and such out there. I'm not gonna name names. Plenty of rappers, actors, celebrity athletes, and plenty of people who should be supporting him because of their own lifestyle, the shit that they do, which is probably way more heinous than this. Than what he's done. But of course, their PR people are going to let them know, hey, don't say anything stay away from the Diddy thing. We don't want to associate you with that. But if they had balls, they would stand up and they would say, look, this seems like a bit much. You know, that's the true test of friendship is who's sticking with you when shit is really bad and it looks bad to stick with you, right? Who's going to actually stand up and go, look, I don't support this. I don't support that. I wish him well and I want him to get help. But I think that this whole case is a fraud and, you know, whatever. Anyway, enough from me. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I do these videos here and there and I talk all this stuff and I do what I do. So subscribe, hit the like button on the way out and let me know in the comments below what you think. You think I'm whatever, or you agree with what I'm saying. What do you think about the Cassie letter? Let me know. What do you think is going to happen as far as the sentencing goes? Where does this go? I think he should go home. That's my last note on this. All right. Peace. I'll see you in the next one. Subscribe.